Hey guys, tonight we begin our journey in a place far from city lights and busy thoughts, where the only sounds are the soft rustle of bamboo leaves and the hush of your own quiet footsteps. You find yourself standing before an ancient Zen temple, its wooden beams bathed in silvery moonlight, nestled deep in the hills, surrounded by swaying bamboo that seems to whisper secrets older than memory itself. The night is cool, and the breeze carries the scent of earth and old incense. You feel a gentle invitation in the air, almost as if the world itself is asking you to set down what you carry, if only for tonight. You probably won't survive this place with your everyday worries intact, but that might be the best thing that ever happens to you. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world, so please drop that in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The doors of the temple are left open as if the monks knew you'd be coming. You slip off your shoes at the threshold, feeling the smooth wood beneath your feet cool and grounding. Just beyond the entrance, a path lined with pebbles crunches gently as you walk each step, bringing you deeper into a world that seems untouched by time. In the moonlight, you notice simple lanterns swinging from the eaves, casting puddles of golden light on the mossy ground. Somewhere inside, a soft bell rings a sound so pure, it sends a little ripple through your chest, as if your heart is remembering something it almost forgot. You pause for a moment, letting your eyes adjust to the tranquil dimness. The quiet is thick but not empty. It's filled with the tiny sounds of life, the call of a night bird, the creak of bamboo in the wind, the gentle sigh of someone sweeping far down the corridor. There's a strange comfort in realizing how little your presence disrupts this peace and how much you're welcome to step into it. Historians still argue whether Zen monasteries were ever truly as quiet as legend claims, or if this is simply the memory we've chosen to keep alive, but tonight it feels entirely real. As you move forward, a monk appears from the shadows, his robes making no more noise than the breeze. His face is serene, his smile small but inviting. Without a word, he gestures for you to follow his movement, so gentle that you find yourself slowing down, almost floating behind him. You pass a row of statues, their features soft in the moonlight, each one representing a different figure from the temple's long, winding history. Some say the statues change expression, depending on who looks at them, but that might just be the trick of the light, or maybe the playfulness of a restless mind, looking for meaning in every shadow. You're led through a small garden where stepping stones cross a shallow stream. The water reflects the stars, making the ground seem impossibly deep and infinite, as if you're walking above the night sky itself. A frog jumps into the water with a plop, sending ripples across the surface and across your mind, reminding you that even the smallest moments have the power to shift your attention. The monk pauses, points to the reflection, and then continues without a word. You sense a lesson here, something about how every ripple eventually fades and how peace can return even after a sudden splash. You continue along the path, passing under an ancient gate. The wood is carved with patterns worn smooth by centuries of hands. There's a legend that says if you touch this gate while holding a heavy thought, it will absorb some of your burden. You reach out, letting your fingers brush the cool surface, and wonder if this small act could really make a difference. The answer, as with many things in Zen, is both yes and no. Sometimes the act is enough, sometimes the belief is what matters. Scholars debate whether rituals like this have psychological benefits or if they're just comforting traditions. But here and now, you simply feel a little lighter. Past the gate, the moon casts soft silver lines through the bamboo, striping the stone path with shadows. The world feels smaller and kinder, as if everything harsh and noisy has been left far outside these walls. You notice the scent of green tea drifting from a nearby room, and your stomach gives a small expectant rumble. In the distance, laughter rises, just a gentle chuckle from an unseen monk, but it's enough to make you smile. Even in this serene place, a little bit of humor finds its way in. After all, enlightenment doesn't mean you stop laughing at frogs or feeling hungry for midnight tea. And so as you stand in the cool night at the edge of a world both strange and familiar, you let out a slow breath. You are here, you are safe, and the journey has just begun. The scent of green tea grows stronger, leading you down a narrow corridor softly lit by lanterns. The floorboards creak a little beneath your feet, but you notice how even the smallest sounds are softened here, wrapped in the calm of centuries-old routines. You find yourself entering a small, warmly lit chamber, where the abbot, an old master with eyebrows like feathery clouds, sits cross-legged by a low wooden table. His robe is the color of worn parchment, and his smile makes his whole face wrinkle into kindness. He gestures to the mat beside him, and you take your seat, legs folding beneath you, as if you've always belonged here. Without a word, he pours you a cup of tea, the steam curling between you in the lantern glow. The old master moves unhurriedly, the way someone might, if they knew there were always enough moments left in the world. You watch his hands steady, sure, almost meditative in their rhythm. The first sip of tea is earthy and warm, and as you drink, you feel the last edges of your day dissolve. Maybe there's a lesson already in the way he pours tea. Historians debate whether the tea ceremony was always such a careful art or if it became formalized later, but tonight it's less about rules and more about presence. The master leans in, voice so gentle you almost miss his words. He asks you to imagine carrying a heavy sack up a mountain. Each day you add a little more to it: worries, regrets, old arguments, things you should have said or never should have thought. You nod, picturing this invisible weight, and feel your shoulders tense just a little. He pours more tea, then tells a Zen riddle. How can you reach the top of the mountain if you never set your burden down? You stare at your cup, the surface trembling, as your hand shakes ever so slightly. The question hovers between you, not demanding an answer, but offering a kind of freedom. You realize, maybe for the first time tonight, that you could simply let go, even for just this evening. There's humor in the way the master's eyes twinkle, as if he knows how hard it is to put the bag down, and how we always pick it up again when no one's looking. He lifts his own teacup, holds it out to you, and raises one eyebrow, silently asking if you get the joke. Maybe you do. Maybe the act of sipping tea here in a quiet room, where the only rush is the swirl of steam, is the whole point. Some scholars say the tea ceremony was a form of meditation, a chance to experience now in a cup. Others think it was simply an excuse for monks to socialize, because even seekers of enlightenment need a break and a good story. The master's gaze is playful, and you sense there's a trick in his riddle. Perhaps the burden isn't real unless you insist on carrying it. Or maybe the climb becomes the destination once you're not so focused on the load. You both laugh quietly at first, then louder, as if sharing a joke that's been waiting centuries for someone to hear it. Suddenly he leans back, taps the table, and points at your empty cup. If you want more tea, he says softly, you must empty your cup first. You blink, not sure if he means the tea or your mind. Maybe both. It's a lesson wrapped in humor and hospitality, the kind that can stay with you long after the tea is cooled. As you sit in silence, letting the warmth soak into your hands, you realize how rare it is to be truly present, to let a single moment fill you up without spilling over into tomorrow. The master glances at the window, where the moon is rising higher, casting long silver shadows across the tatami. He sighs, content, as if satisfied with the riddle, the tea, and your company. You feel lighter, not because the world has changed, but because for a moment you've put down the sack. The abbot smiles, motioning for you to finish your tea, and as you do, you sense that this is only the first of many riddles and gentle lessons waiting in the night. Your mind drifts, wondering about the monks who came before you, who sipped tea in this very room, shared burdens, and discovered for themselves the art of letting go. No one agrees on when or how these practices started, but that mystery just makes it feel even more magical. And as you stand to leave, the old master bows, his laughter trailing behind you like the last note of a lullaby. You step back into the cool hallway, tea warmed and a little lighter, the first Zen riddle softly echoing in your mind. You wander slowly down the dim corridor, footsteps now lighter, the taste of tea still warming your chest. The hush of the temple settles around you, making each breath feel softer, more intentional. There's an echo of distant laughter, and for a moment you wonder if it's coming from another room, or if it's just the memory of the abbot's gentle joke. You trail your fingers along the smooth wall, and just ahead the corridor turns, opening into a quiet alcove where a single paper lantern flickers. Here an inscription is carved into an old wooden panel, delicate kanji that you can't quite decipher. You pause, squinting, trying to unravel its secret meaning, but you realize that sometimes words aren't meant to be solved by thinking alone. Instead, your attention is drawn to a small tatami mat in the center of the alcove, where another monk sits in perfect stillness, eyes half closed, a gentle smile playing at his lips. He holds out one hand, palm up, and then slowly closes it, leaving only empty air. He gestures for you to sit beside him, and you do, mirroring his posture. For a moment you both sit in silence, listening to the hum of the temple at night. Then quietly he asks, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" The words float between you, absurd and profound all at once. You tilt your head considering, but nothing comes. The riddle hangs in the air like incense smoke, strange, subtle, impossible to grab. You let out a breath, not sure if you're supposed to laugh or ponder. The monk's eyes twinkle. Perhaps he's waiting for your confusion to turn into curiosity, or maybe he's just enjoying the moment. Historians still argue whether these koans, these Zen riddles, were ever truly intended as logical puzzles, or if they were meant to nudge the mind off its rails and into a gentler, wider place. Tonight you notice how your usual thoughts, shopping lists, old mistakes, tomorrow's worries start to grow quieter. The sound of one hand you think might just be the space where all the other sounds slip away. A distant bell rings, its tone round and deep, echoing along the corridor. You watch the monk listen to the bell, and for a second you forget you're trying to solve anything at all. Instead, you feel the bell's vibrations humming through the floor, up your legs, settling in your ribs. There's a comfort in not needing to answer and just letting the question be. The monk opens his hand again, palm facing you, then brings it gently to his chest as if tucking the riddle away for safekeeping. You sit together for a while longer, the quiet settling in the world shrinking to the gentle sway of the lantern and the soft shuffle of your breath. You realize you haven't checked your phone, haven't thought about the outside world in what feels like hours. Maybe that's the real magic of this place. It catches you off guard, strips away the noise, and asks nothing more than your honest attention. The monk stands and bows, his movement unhurried, the kind of slowness that feels like an invitation to slow down with him. He gestures toward the next hallway, leaving you with the riddle and the fading ring of the bell. You feel a little silly, a little wise, and mostly relieved that sometimes not having the answer is exactly what you need. As you step away, you find yourself smiling for no reason. The silence doesn't press in, it opens up, making space for your thoughts to stretch and soften. There's a freedom in not needing to figure everything out. You wonder if the sound of one hand is in fact the very sound your mind makes when it finally stops chasing after itself. As you continue down the corridor, you catch your reflection in a darkened window. Your face looks calmer, your eyes a little softer, as if something heavy has been set down without your even noticing. You chuckle to yourself, remembering the abbot's laughter and the gentle trick of the tea. Maybe this is how you begin to loosen the worries you brought with you. You turn a corner, the distant bell now, just a memory, and feel the gentle pull of the night drawing you deeper into the temple. Whatever the sound of one hand is, it has done its work, and you are lighter for it. You drift along the softly lit hallway, feeling the gentle rhythm of your breath as you pass through a series of sliding doors. The hush grows deeper, almost like a blanket settling over your shoulders, and soon you find yourself in a tranquil courtyard bordered by the low walls of the temple. The air here is tinged with the faint sweetness of night-blooming jasmine, and a faint mist gathers at the edges of a still pond where lotus flowers float on black water. By the pond, a wooden bench waits beneath a crooked willow tree. You take a seat, feeling the wood cool and sturdy beneath you, and gaze out over the surface. The moon hangs low, its reflection perfectly mirrored in the pond, broken only by the slow ripple of a lazy carp. For a while you do nothing at all, just watch the moonlight drift and the water respond in gentle waves. A soft shuffle breaks the silence, and the old master appears settling beside you with a quiet grunt. His eyes follow your gaze to the water, and he nods as if you've asked a question that needs no words. He clears his throat and says, "The mind, like this pond, is easily disturbed. Every thought is a pebble. If you watch long enough, the surface always becomes clear again." You smile, letting his words settle over you, understanding them in a way that feels less like thinking and more like remembering something you once knew. Historians still debate whether ancient Zen teachers truly spent so much time speaking in riddles beside lotus ponds, or if this is just the way we've chosen to remember them, quiet, unhurried, patient with the moon. Either way, you can't help but feel that you are exactly where you are meant to be. The master invites you to close your eyes for a moment and listen not just to the sounds around you, but to the steady hush of your own breath. "Notice how thoughts come and go," he whispers. "Notice how you always return to this single moment. You let your thoughts pass by like clouds, letting them float and dissolve, feeling a slow, gentle settling in your chest. You realize that presence isn't something you chase, but something that arrives when you stop chasing it all. The night air feels softer now, cool but not cold, and you sense the world slowing its frantic spin. There's a story the master shares, a tale of a student who spent years trying to capture enlightenment as if it were a rare bird. Each night the student would sit by the pond, growing frustrated, when thoughts kept coming, rippling the mind's surface. Finally, one night exhausted, he gave up trying and simply watched the moon float on the water. In that moment of letting go, peace arrived as quietly as the mist. The master glances at you, eyebrow raised, and you both laugh gently. Maybe enlightenment really is that simple, a pause, a breath, a willingness to watch the moon instead of chasing it. You listen to the gentle splash of the carp, the whisper of the willow leaves, and the soft exhale of the master beside you. Together you let the night unfold at its own pace. He tells you if you can find the moon on the water, you can find the present in yourself. The words sound mysterious, but the feeling is plain as day. Right here, right now you belong. Some believe the most profound teachings hide in plain sight, like the moon that only appears once you stop stirring the pond. Eventually, the master stands and bows, leaving you by the water's edge. You sit for a while longer, watching the moon ride the ripples, feeling the stillness seep into your bones. In that quiet, you promise yourself to remember this presence is always here, waiting for you to notice. Your worries begin to dissolve like mist on the surface of the pond, and you know that at least for tonight, you can let them float away. As you rise and make your way back along the gravel path, your feet move more softly, your thoughts more slowly. Each step is a small act of trust in the night, a gentle reminder that peace isn't a destination, but a way of walking through the world one breath, one ripple, one moonbeam at a time. You follow the stone path out of the moonlit courtyard, your steps almost silent as you move beneath the shadowy arches of the temple. A chilly breeze stirs the air, bringing with it the earthy scent of autumn leaves. As you round a corner, you find yourself in the monastery's garden where a group of monks in saffron robes are slowly, methodically sweeping fallen leaves into neat, swirling piles. The only sound is the soft whisk of bamboo brooms against gravel and the occasional gentle laugh as a playful gust undoes their work. A young monk waves you over, offering a spare broom. You hesitate, unused to being invited into such a simple ritual, but curiosity wins out. As you join the circle, you notice how even this small act, sweeping, has a rhythm, a quiet dignity. You begin at first clumsy, your broom scattering more leaves than it gathers. One of the monks grins, showing you how to move in slow, steady arcs, letting the tool do the work. The motion is oddly soothing, almost hypnotic, and soon your thoughts begin to slow as well. There is a story whispered as the monks work about a master who asked his students to sweep not only the temple grounds but also the dust from their minds. Clear away what you don't need, he'd say, and make space for what matters. Scholars debate whether such tales are meant to be literal or simply metaphors for mindfulness. But as the pile of leaves grows, you feel something inside you begin to clear out too. You pause, leaning on your broom, and look around. The garden is alive with color, crimson ochre and gold, and every breeze stirs the piles, scattering a few leaves back into chaos. One older monk winks at you, muttering, "The wind is enlightenment's little test." The others laugh, not unkindly, and you find yourself laughing along. Even in Zen, it seems perfection is an illusion. Maybe that's the point. The effort is what matters, not the end result. As you sweep, your mind naturally drifts to the clutter you've been carrying, the old regrets, the nagging worries, the endless mental lists. With each careful motion, you imagine clearing a little more space, allowing your thoughts to quiet and your heart to settle. It's surprisingly satisfying to see a small patch of earth swept clean, even if you know the leaves will return tomorrow. The monks tell you that this simple task is a practice, an act of meditation in motion. When you sweep, the young monk says, just sweep. No need to plan your day or solve your life. Just notice the sensation of the broom, the sound of the bristles, the play of sunlight and shadow across the ground. You realize how often your mind is somewhere else, racing ahead or wandering back, never quite here. Tonight, the act of sweeping is enough. A small debate breaks out among the monks. Should the leaves be gathered in piles or spread out to nourish the soil? They chuckle at their own seriousness, agreeing that perhaps the earth knows best. Historians still argue. One of them teases whether Zen gardens are for beauty, for meditation, or just to give restless novices something to do with their hands. You feel at home in this gentle uncertainty, relieved that the answer doesn't matter so much after all. When the work is done, the monks bow to you and you bow back, feeling a warm gratitude for their company and the lesson hidden in the simplest of actions. You lean your broom against the wall and watch as the last leaves drift to the ground, already beginning to undo your tidy work. Instead of frustration, you feel a kind of peace, a soft acceptance that nothing stays perfect and nothing needs to. As you leave the garden, you carry with you the rhythm of sweeping, the sound of laughter, and the quiet sense that little by little you are learning to unclutter your mind. You walk on your heart lighter, your steps as soft as the falling leaves. You step back inside the temple, the faint scent of earth and autumn lingering on your sleeves. The corridor opens into a small study lined with shelves of worn scrolls and inkstones. At a low table, a visiting scholar sits quietly with the old master, the two men deep in conversation. You're invited to join, and the master gestures toward a third cushion, patting it as if welcoming an old friend home. The scholar, eager to share, begins to recount a tale known to generations of Zen students, the story of the empty cup. He describes a young seeker proud of all he's learned, who visits a famous master hoping for more wisdom. The master pours tea into the seeker's cup, but instead of stopping when it's full, he keeps pouring. The tea spills over, soaking the table. The startled student cries out, "It's overflowing. No more will go in." The master smiles and says, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions. How can I teach you unless you first empty your cup?" You listen, grinning at the gentle absurdity. Maybe you felt like that student showing up with your mind already crowded, your opinions packed so tight there's no space for anything new. There's an easy humor in the master's trick, but the lesson lingers long after the laughter fades. The master lifts his own cup, empties it with a graceful tilt, and sets it down. Wisdom, he says, isn't about collecting more and more. It begins with making space for what you do not know. You sip the tea they pour for you, noticing how its taste seems clearer, crisper now. Perhaps it's your imagination, or maybe it's the simple fact that you're finally paying attention. Scholars debate whether this story is apocryphal or based on a real encounter. Was the master a historical figure, or just a stand-in for countless teachers whose greatest lesson was learning to let go of certainty? No one can say for sure, but the truth of it rings clear tonight. The conversation drifts and you feel yourself relaxing into the room's quiet comfort. The gentle scratching of the scholar's brush as he writes, the low hum of voices, the steady rise and fall of breathing. It's all part of a wider harmony, the kind you only notice when your mind is less crowded. You think back to the abbot's riddle about burdens, to the way you swept leaves and clutter from the garden and your thoughts. Maybe emptiness here isn't emptiness at all, but readiness and invitation for something good to find you. The master turns to you, eyes sparkling, and offers a final thought. We spend so much energy defending our ideas, holding tight to our stories. But sometimes peace is what's left when the story runs out. His words are light, almost playful, and you realize the humor that runs through these lessons isn't just for show. It's a kind of gentle compassion, a reminder that even in seeking wisdom, it's okay to laugh at yourself, to let go of pride, and start fresh. As the evening deepens, the master and the scholar wish you well, sending you back into the halls with a bow. You leave the study feeling refreshed, as if some space inside you has quietly opened up. The lesson of the empty cup follows you, a quiet companion, as you wander onward. Make space, let go, and see what arrives. Outside the study, you pause to watch a moth flutter in the lantern light. Its movements are aimless, sometimes circling, sometimes darting away. You smile, reminded that even the most ancient teachings can be learned anew, one small, open moment at a time. You wander deeper into the heart of the temple, where the walls seem thicker and the silence becomes a living thing, soft, steady, yet somehow powerful. Here, a great wooden gate stands, its surface carved with swirling patterns and mythical beasts whose eyes almost glimmer in the lantern light. The old abbot stands beside it, hands folded, as if waiting for you to arrive at this exact moment. He invites you to rest on the worn stone step, and as you sit, he tells the story of the Gate of No Self. Long ago, he begins, a monk traveled hundreds of miles hoping to understand the nature of the self. He sought teachers, read scrolls, and meditated for years, but always came back to the same question: who am I really? The abbot smiles, his eyes kind. One day he came to a gate very much like this one, and the master who guarded it asked him to leave his name and all his stories outside. You picture this scene, the tired traveler with his bundle of memories and regrets pausing before the gate, unsure whether he can really lay it all down. The abbot taps the wood beside you. To enter here, you must let go of the idea that you are just the sum of your roles, your job, your past, your hopes and fears. When you step through, you are simply presence awake to what is. There's a gravity to his words, but also a gentle humor, as if he's seen enough people try to sneak their egos past the gate, only to be caught by the door's quiet wisdom. Scholars still argue whether the teaching of no self is about dissolving identity completely, or simply softening our attachment to labels and old stories. Some say it's the heart of Buddhist compassion. When you stop clinging so tightly to yourself, you can finally see others, clearly meeting them with kindness instead of comparison. Tonight, sitting with the abbot beneath the carved gate, the idea feels less like a riddle and more like a quiet relief. He shares a tale of two travelers who each arrived at this gate. One tried to argue his way and insisting that his experiences made him special. The other came quietly, setting down his bundle without a word, and entered easily. The lesson isn't about losing who you are, but about loosening your grip, letting yourself become lighter, more open to the present, less tangled in old wounds and proud victories. The abbot's voice grows softer. When you cross this threshold, there is no need to impress or defend, no need to fix yourself before you belong. You are enough just as you are, even as you change. You breathe in the quiet, letting his words settle. A gentle breeze moves through the gate, carrying the scent of sandalwood and cool night air. You notice how your thoughts soften, how your chest feels a little less tight. He laughs softly, recalling the many novices who've tried to sneak their burdens past this gate, hiding pride in a pocket, clutching a regret in a sleeve. But he says the gate has a way of returning those things to their owners, asking them to try again with empty hands. You smile, grateful for the humor woven through even the deepest lessons. After a moment, you stand and bow, feeling lighter, as you imagine stepping through the gate, leaving behind what you no longer need. The abbot bows in return, his face alight with the gentle mischief of a teacher who knows the way, but also knows that everyone must cross in their own time. You continue on the story of the gate of no self, quietly echoing within you. For tonight, you let go a little more, trusting that on the other side you'll find not emptiness, but space, room for compassion, for presence, for peace. You walk on the memory of the gate lingering, and soon the ground beneath your feet shifts from smooth wood to uneven stone. Lanterns give way to the glow of the moon, guiding you along a narrow path winding through a silent garden. Here, flat stones, each with their own history, their own worn edges, lead you deeper into the darkness and further from the familiar. Your pace slows, careful on the shifting stones, and for a moment you are aware of every step, every slight wobble, every choice in how you place your foot. A gentle voice breaks the hush, and you see a monk waiting at a bend in the path. He greets you with a bow and invites you to sit beside a lantern, its paper sides painted with images of cranes and pines. As you settle, he asks, "What do you carry with you tonight?" You consider his question, realizing that it's not just your body walking this path, but your memories, your regrets, your old mistakes. The monk tells a story of a pilgrim who once journeyed across mountains and rivers burdened by guilt for choices made long ago. Along his path, he met a wise teacher who pointed to the stones underfoot and said, "Every stone is a lesson. Some are sharp, some are smooth. All can guide your way if you walk with care." The story lingers in the cool night air, and you find yourself pondering your own path. How many times you've stumbled over the same regret. How often you've wished you could simply start again. You notice how the stones beneath you feel solid but also forgiving. They let you shift and adjust, reminding you that you're never really stuck. Scholars still debate whether the Buddhist teaching of karma is fixed fate or a series of opportunities for growth. Some say it's a ledger that must be balanced. Others believe it's more like a river, always moving, always changing with each new step you take. The monk invites you to pick up a small stone from the path. You turn it over in your hand, feeling its cool, rough surface, and he asks what you see. An old mistake, maybe you admit, or just a moment I can't let go of. He nods, encouraging you to look closer. Sometimes what we carry becomes a guide, not a chain. If you place it gently, it can show you the way forward. You let out a quiet laugh at the absurd simplicity, a stone, a regret, a lesson all in one. For a while you sit in companionable silence, the monk tending the lantern, you rolling the stone between your fingers. The night air is crisp and every breath feels fresher than the last. You remember the stories told by the abbot, the act of sweeping away clutter, the lesson of the empty cup. Maybe you think walking the path is less about finding the right answer and more about noticing each step, forgiving yourself as you go. A light wind rustles the grass and you hear the distant echo of the temple bell, as if time itself is reminding you to move gently, to let the past be the past. The monk stands, bows deeply, and offers you the stone as a keepsake, a reminder that your journey is made one careful, imperfect step at a time. You rise the stone cool in your palm and begin to walk once more along the path of stones. The way ahead feels less intimidating, each step a quiet act of acceptance, each stone a sign that you are, after all, exactly where you need to be. You continue along the winding path, the small stone still tucked in your hand, a gentle weight that reminds you how even burdens can become companions if you carry them mindfully. Soon you reach a low wooden bridge arching over a narrow stream. Water murmurs softly beneath, tracing its own way through the rocks. The air here feels lighter, washed clean by the constant movement of the stream. You lean against the bridge rail, letting the cool night air calm your skin and your spirit. A pair of monks approach, deep in conversation, their robes rustling quietly. They notice you and with a smile invite you to walk with them. As you cross the bridge together, one of the monks begins a story. Once, he says, two monks were traveling on a muddy road. At a crossroads, they met a woman unable to cross without dirtying her fine robes. One monk quickly picked her up, carried her across, and set her down on the other side. Hours later, the second monk finally asked, "Why did you touch her? We're not supposed to." The first monk simply replied, "I set her down hours ago. Are you still carrying her?" You pause, considering the tale. The image lingers in your mind, the weight of what we carry long after the moment has passed. Maybe you've done this too, holding on to old worries or replaying regrets that everyone else has long since let go. The monks chuckle at your thoughtful expression. "Clouds look heavy," one says, "but they float." Their laughter is gentle, teasing you into seeing the lightness hidden in their words. Historians still debate whether such stories are based on real events or crafted to illustrate the subtle art of letting go. Some believe the lesson is about the letter of the law versus the spirit, while others see it as a reminder that true peace comes when you release the burdens you no longer need to bear. As you walk beside the monks, you watch the clouds drift across the face of the moon. You realize that your mind too fills and empties with worries, hopes, fears, none of which are as permanent as they sometimes feel. You find comfort in the idea that worry, like a passing cloud, can move on if you stop holding it so tightly. The monks invite you to pause on the far side of the bridge, where a simple bench waits beneath a stand of slender pine trees. Here they encourage you to rest your stone beside you and sit quietly for a few breaths. "Every regret is just a stone you can choose to set down," one says. Notice how light you feel when your hands are empty. You laugh softly, surprised by how quickly the truth settles into you. A debate arises between the monks, one insisting that the secret to happiness is forgetting old troubles, the other claiming it's in remembering the lessons but leaving the pain behind. They grin at each other, agreeing that perhaps both are right. You sense that the answer lies somewhere between remembering, gently releasing freely. The night deepens and the pine needles above you whisper in the wind, as if agreeing with the monk's conclusion. You realize that letting go is not about erasing the past, but about no longer letting it shape the weight of your present. With a quiet smile, you place your stone on the bench, feeling your fingers relax. The monks bid you good night and slip back into the darkness, leaving you with the sound of the stream and the newfound lightness in your chest. For a few precious moments, you just sit watching the clouds drift and the water flow, feeling the simple peace of a burden finally released. As you rise from the bench, the stream's gentle song still echoes in your ears, and the air feels even softer now, cleansed by the drifting clouds and the relief of letting go. You wander further into the temple grounds, guided by the warm glow of paper lanterns suspended from low tree branches. The monks move silently around you, each tending to a small lantern, their faces golden in the flickering light. You watch as one monk lights a new lantern, the flame trembling for a moment before it finds its calm, burning steady and true. You're handed a lantern yourself, its delicate frame cool in your hands, and invited to join the circle. The air hums with a sense of gentle anticipation as everyone gathers around a shallow pool of water. Tonight is the night for sending lanterns adrift, an old tradition meant to honor the struggles of the past year and to wish hope and peace for whatever lies ahead. The head monk nods, explaining in a soft voice that lighting the lantern is like kindling your own spirit, finding warmth and light even in the thickest fog. When we light our lanterns in the mist, he says we remind ourselves that even small hopes can brighten the darkest night. You look into the glowing paper walls, watching shadows dance, and feel something inside you lift. Maybe it's hope, maybe just a sense of being part of something gentle and kind. As you kneel by the water's edge, you see reflections of the lanterns swirling with the moon in the clouds. You set your lantern afloat with the others, the current tugging it slowly forward until it joins a shimmering procession. For a while you watch them drift, each one carrying someone's wish, someone's story, someone's quiet longing for peace. There's a soft murmur of conversation among the monks as they debate whether this ceremony began as a Buddhist ritual or as a simple village tradition adopted by the temple long ago. Some say the lanterns were originally used to guide lost spirits home. Others believe they represent the hopes we send out into the world, uncertain where they'll land. Scholars may never agree, but tonight it's the feeling of togetherness and light that matters most. A young novice shares a joke, making the older monks laugh. If your lantern tips over, maybe it just found a shortcut to enlightenment, he teases. You grin, comforted by the ease of their humor. Even sacred moments here are tinged with laughter, reminding you not to take yourself too seriously. You breathe in the cool lantern-lit air and realize that your worries have become quieter, your heart a little warmer. You remember the stone you set down, the story of the monks on the bridge, the lesson of letting go. Each small act tonight, lighting a lantern, sharing a smile, sending a hope out onto the water, feels like its own kind of healing. As the last lanterns drift away into the mist, the monks bow together, their silhouettes glowing softly. The pool returns to stillness, but the sense of peace lingers, wrapping itself around you like a warm blanket. You promise yourself to carry this feeling forward, to light your own lanterns in the foggiest moments of life. When you finally step away from the water, you find your shoulders are lighter, your steps more certain. Lanterns in the mist, you realize, are not just a ceremony, but a way of seeing the world, gentle, hopeful and glowing, even in uncertainty. The temple is hushed once more as the lantern glow fades and you move through a shadowed walkway lined with simple wooden pillars. The night grows deeper and the world grows quieter still, as if every sound and every movement has agreed to rest for a while. You find yourself drawn toward a small meditation hall, its paper screens softly illuminated from within. You slip inside and are greeted not with words but with a profound, enveloping silence. The master sits at the front of the hall, eyes closed, hands folded in his lap, as if sculpted from tranquility itself. Around him, monks are gathered in quiet meditation, their faces serene, their breathing slow and deep. You take your place among them, feeling the silence settle around your shoulders. The room is cool and faintly scented with cedar, a sharp contrast to the warm, flickering light of the lanterns outside. Here there is only stillness, only the gentle sound of your own breath. Time stretches. There is no teaching, no story, no lesson spoken aloud. The master's silence fills the space more powerfully than any words could. You begin to notice the rise and fall of your chest, the tickle of air entering your nose, the faint pressure where your body meets the floor. Your mind, eager at first for something to do, slowly quiets until thoughts become like distant echoes, barely touching you at all. Scholars still debate whether these silent teachings are meant to transmit wisdom directly or simply to nudge the mind toward its own answers. Some say that silence is the greatest teacher of all others, wonder if it is merely a pause in the rush of daily lessons. Tonight you sense that both may be true. The silence itself is the answer, and the question and the space in between. Occasionally a novice shifts or a robe rustles, but the master never moves, never opens his eyes. His presence is an anchor, steady calm, quietly reassuring. You remember the earlier stories, the laughter of the monks, the riddles and the lanterns, and realize how every lesson has led to this moment, the simple, fearless act of just being still. A quiet joke floats through your mind. If enlightenment were a sound, would it be the crash of a gong or the hush after it fades? You nearly laugh, but instead you feel a smile growing inside you, a gentle amusement at your own mind's restlessness. In this place you learn that sometimes the best answers arrive when you stop searching for them altogether. When the meditation finally ends, the master stands and bows to the room, his silence a blessing. The monks rise and file out without a word, their faces open and calm. You follow feeling refreshed in a way you can't quite explain. There is a lightness in your step and a softness in your gaze, as if the world has slowed down just for you. You step back into the night, the cool air sweet and sharp, carrying with you the lesson of the master's silence, that sometimes peace is found not in solving, but in simply allowing and resting gently in the heart of the moment. As you step back into the courtyard, the sky above is a deep velvet blue scattered with quiet stars. The temple's lanterns are dim now, and you notice a gentle hum of activity in a secluded corner of the garden. There several monks are tending to a Zen garden, a wide bed of smooth pebbles raked into swirling patterns, bordered by small shrubs and mossy stones. You wander over, drawn by the meditative rhythm of rakes and the low murmur of friendly conversation. A kindly monk gestures for you to join, placing a wooden rake in your hands. The tool feels light, its handle worn smooth by countless other hands. You move hesitantly at first, copying the patient arcs traced by your companions, watching the pebbles shift and settle under your guidance. With each gentle stroke, you find your mind beginning to clear your worries, settling like dust between the stones. As you work, the monk beside you shares a story. He speaks of an ancient gardener who believed that every act of kindness was like tending a garden, that even the smallest care given to another would blossom in time, spreading harmony far beyond the boundaries of one's own plot. He smiles and points to the neat edges of the sand, where moss and wildflowers grow side by side, thriving, not despite their differences, but because of them. You listen, feeling a quiet warmth. Compassion, the monk says, doesn't just heal others. It changes the person who offers it, creating a sense of balance within. Scholars still argue whether Zen gardens were truly designed for meditation or if they were simply a practical solution for rocky soil, but either way, you can't help but notice the sense of ease that fills the air as you work together, each person quietly shaping the world with kindness. You share a moment of laughter as another monk tries to shoo a persistent cat away from the newly raked sand, only for the feline to flop down content in the very center of a perfect spiral. The monks sigh, shaking their heads, and you can't help but laugh with them, proof that no garden or life ever stays perfectly ordered for long. Your attention shifts from perfecting the pattern to appreciating the process. The simple act of raking, of working side by side in silence and laughter, brings a sense of belonging, of being part of something quietly meaningful. You find yourself wishing that kindness could always feel this effortless, that it could ripple outward the way patterns spread through sand. When the work is finished, you step back to admire the garden, noticing how each person's touch, deliberate or accidental, has left its mark. The moon rises higher, and you see how the light glimmers on the pebbles, transforming the simplest shapes into something quietly beautiful. Before you leave, the monk presses a small sprig of wildflower into your palm, a reminder that compassion, once planted, can bloom in unexpected places. You thank him with a bow, feeling the truth of his words settle warmly in your heart. You walk away from the garden, your spirit calm and your steps gentle, carrying with you the sense that kindness is not just a gift to others, but a path to your own inner harmony, one small, mindful act at a time. You stroll away from the moonlit garden, the delicate wildflower still tucked in your palm, its soft petals a quiet promise of gentleness. The night has grown deeper and cooler, the world shrinking to the sound of your breath and the steady pulse of your heartbeat. A monk waves you over to a quiet pavilion, its sliding doors left open to the cool breeze, and invites you to sit on a soft tatami mat. The room is simple, bare walls, a single candle flickering in a shallow bowl, and the hush of calm that signals it is time to let your body truly rest. The monk smiles and sits across from you. Tonight, he says, you will learn to breathe with the universe. He demonstrates a slow, mindful breath, his shoulders relaxing, his hands resting gently on his knees. You follow his lead, drawing the air in through your nose, feeling your chest rise, then letting it out slowly, as if releasing a weight. You notice, perhaps for the first time all day, the subtle tension in your shoulders and jaw, the tiny aches and flickers of restlessness. The breath smooths them out, one gentle exhale at a time. The monk explains in a voice so soft it nearly blends with the night that mindful breathing is both simple and powerful. When you breathe with awareness, you return to this moment. You become part of something larger, connected to the air, the world, and all living things. You find comfort in the idea that each breath is a small bridge, joining you to the present and gently guiding you away from worry. There's a story he shares about a farmer who, overwhelmed by the worries of his day, asked a wise teacher for help. The teacher handed him a pebble and told him to hold it each time he felt anxious, reminding him to return to his breath. Soon the teacher said, "The pebble will not be needed. Your breath will be enough." You smile, thinking of the stone you carried earlier and the way you learned to set it down. Historians still argue whether ancient monks really believed in breathing as a cure for all ills, or if it's a modern interpretation layered over ancient practice. Some see it as just one part of meditation. Others claim it is the very heart of Zen. Tonight, as your breath deepens and your mind settles, you sense the truth doesn't need to be pinned down. The practice is what matters. As you continue breathing with intention, the world grows softer around the edges. The gentle sound of your inhale and exhale becomes a lullaby, a rhythm older than words. You picture the breath as a wave rising and falling, washing through your mind and sweeping away the last bits of tension. The monk's presence is reassuring, a quiet anchor in the night. And you realize that you are safe, that you belong, that rest is not something you must earn, but a gift you are allowed to receive. You share a final smile with the monk, grateful for his kindness and his wisdom, then close your eyes, letting your body relax completely. With each breath, you feel yourself growing heavier, softer, more peaceful. The sounds of the temple fade to a distant hush, and you drift in the gentle tide of your breath, carried deeper into healing sleep. The night has reached its quietest hour, and the world feels hushed and safe, wrapped in a blanket of soft darkness. You rise from the tatami mat and wander through silent hallways where the shadows are thick but gentle, the air cool and tinged with the scent of sandalwood. The temple itself seems to be sleeping, every door closed softly, every candle reduced to a faint ember. Even the garden is still leaves unmoving, as if nature itself is holding its breath. As you walk, you're drawn toward the heart of the temple, a wide, low chamber where the monks gather for sleep. Here, woven mats are spread out in neat rows, and the old abbot sits near a single flickering lantern, his presence radiating calm. He invites you to sit with him one last time, and you feel a sense of trust as though you've known him all your life. His eyes are soft, reflecting the gentlest parts of the night. He tells you a story, his voice slow and steady, about a village that worried endlessly about what the morning would bring, whether crops would grow, whether rains would come, whether they had worked hard enough to deserve peace. One year after a long drought, the villagers gathered in the temple sleepless, with anxiety clutching their fears like old blankets. The wise teacher sat among them and said, "Just for tonight, put your worries aside. Let sleep find you, and trust that dawn will bring what it brings." The villagers lay down, unsure at first, but slowly the peace of the temple settled into their bones, and they rested more deeply than they had in years. Scholars still debate whether this is simply a parable or a record of a real night long ago. Some believe it is a lesson in faith, others say it is about surrender, knowing when to act and when to rest. You feel both truths living quietly in the room tonight, where every breath is a reminder to let go, to stop clinging to the past or fearing the future. The abbot tells you with a quiet smile that the art of sleep is not in controlling the night, but in accepting its mystery. Sleep, he says, is the temple's greatest act of trust. He laughs softly and adds, "It is also the monk's favorite form of meditation." You both share an easy, tired laugh, the kind that only comes when the day is truly finished. He bows, wishing you gentle dreams, and soon you lie down among the other sleepers. The room is filled with the soothing rhythm of quiet breathing, the lantern flickering its last. You close your eyes, your body sinking into the woven mat, and feel the slow, quiet release of tension as you let go completely. Tonight you surrender to the night, not because you have solved every worry, but because you trust that rest is what you need, and that morning will come when it is ready. Your mind floats weightless and easy, drifting in the stillness of the temple. You accept for now that some things are beyond control, and that peace is found in the act of letting go. The temple sleeps, and you sleep with it. In the deepest part of the night, the world is utterly calm, every surface softened by darkness, every worry faded to nothing. You lie still, breathing slow and steady, your body cradled by the mat your mind carried on gentle waves between dream and waking. Somewhere in the distance, a bell waits for the dawn, its bronze body cold and silent. But even now you sense its quiet promise, the certainty that morning will come as it always does. Time drifts slow as mist over the garden. You dream lightly, wandering familiar paths through the temple in your mind, down moonlit corridors, along mossy stone walks back to the quiet pond and the silent, patient faces of the statues. Every lesson from the night, every story and moment of laughter seems to echo softly through your dreams. The monks rest around you, breathing in peaceful rhythm, each one a small island of calm in the wide sea of night. Somewhere nearby, a novice shifts in his sleep, letting out a contented sigh. The air is cool and pure, scented with faded incense and the faint memory of green tea. For a moment, the world feels as if it has always been this way, gentle, unhurried, safe. You realize that the healing you hoped for at the start of your journey has arrived quietly without fanfare woven into each breath and small act of kindness along the way. Historians still argue whether these ancient temples were really havens of uninterrupted rest, or if sleep came in fits and starts troubled by worldly concerns. But here tonight, in this story and in this space, you know only the calm that follows trust. The lessons of the night settle over you: presence, acceptance, the courage to let go, the peace that comes from knowing you are enough as you are. And then softly, as if from another world, a bell rings. The sound is pure, gentle, carrying the promise of morning through the thin veil of sleep. You stir, not rushed, not startled, just eased back to waking by the quiet chime of a new day. The monks rise one by one, stretching and bowing, greeting the dawn with serene faces and quiet smiles. You sit up feeling rested and clear, your mind washed clean by the night's journey. You step outside barefoot on cool stone and feel the first rays of sun warming your face. The bamboo stirs in a soft breeze, the garden glimmers with dew, and the whole world feels bright and new. You carry the calm of the temple with you, the kindness, the lessons, the gentle laughter, ready to meet whatever this day brings, awake, alive, and at peace. Now, as the temple returns to gentle life and daylight settles on the old stones, allow yourself to linger a little longer in the quiet peace you found. There's no rush. Every breath is slow and deep, carrying away the last remnants of worry, drawing in the cool, clean air of morning. Your body is soft, your mind is light, and every thought drifts like a cloud across an open sky, free from tension or haste. The monks move through the courtyard, their steps unhurried, their faces open and welcoming. You sense the presence of everyone who's ever found comfort here. Generations of seekers, dreamers, and quiet souls. Each one leaving a little more peace for those who come after. The old master's laughter, the sound of the bell, the gentle sweep of brooms, and the glow of lanterns in the night, all of it lives inside you. Now a reservoir of calm to draw from whenever you need. With each breath, you feel more at home in yourself, less bound by old anxieties. Your heart settles soft and steady at the center of your being. You remember the kindness you practiced, the burdens you laid down, and the light you set afloat on the water. Even if tomorrow brings new challenges, tonight has taught you how to return to this well of peace, how to find stillness even in a world that moves too fast. So let your eyes close again if you wish, letting the final echoes of temple bells and the whisper of bamboo lull you into restful, healing sleep. You are safe, you are cared for, and the dawn is always waiting to welcome you back. Sweet dreams.